All right, so welcome back, everyone. It's always lovely to see your faces. I love seeing you here and your names if you're not on camera. All right, so let's go straight into the superpower. Take a deep breath and either close your eyes or leave them open, whichever you prefer. And go into your superpower state, however you normally do that. So either by repeating your word or phrase, or using your anchor, or imagining holding your subject in your arms in a hug. Start to feel that sensation in your chest, that feeling of opening, expansion, as your heart opens. And allow that light, that energy to shine out from your heart. And now allow that light or energy to spread down to your toes, up to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy. And fill each of the 50 trillion cells that make up your body with that same light, that energy. Love each one just for existing. Very, very good. Now allow that light or energy to fill yourself as a child, that little you, any age, from the tips of their toes to the top of their head and out to their fingertips. Love that little you just for existing, no matter what. Very, very good. And allow that light or energy to overflow from that little you and fill your whole childhood. Everything and everyone in it, shining that light into any darkness and loving everything and everyone. Good job. This is your power. Very, very good. And now allow that light or energy to fill everyone who's on this call today. Those who are on camera, those who are off camera, fill everyone with that same light, that energy, that love, just for existing. Very good. Good job. All right, so you can open your eyes. And let's go around, find out how everyone's doing. So Tina, you're first up.
Good
Hi,
morning.
how are you today?
I'm good. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about childhood memory. When you recall the new childhood memory, has to be like from little you up when you grow up, or can be any memory, whatever pop up?
Any memory, whatever comes up and whatever is appropriate to the situation. So for
Okay.
example, if you're feeling worried about something and you've created a new memory from when you were 12 years old, that is the opposite, that provides then that's great. Refer to that.
Yeah, because when I want to recall them, like I have a time, I sit, I close my eyes, and I go to Superpower, and there I recall the memories. So they're like everywhere, all over. It's not like from where I was born, after I go to school and blah, blah, up, just whatever. So that's okay?
That's absolutely fine.
Oh,
Yeah, once they're changed. So it's just for changing them that we do the earliest ones first, just because those are the first ones and they're going to be affecting the others. So, but once they're changed, that's fine.
But when you recall them, you replay, can be any.
Can be anyone.
Okay, so I feel much easier, more comfortable, because when I tried to in order, it was like hard, like I didn't want to even do it.
Yeah, I don't do mine in order. I do mine whatever comes up, the one that feels most appropriate or nicest at the time.
Okay, good, excellent.
Right.
I want to say thank you all so much for my arm. It doesn't hurt like used to, like after yesterday. When we finished this morning session, I was like, oh my God, my arm doesn't kill me like used to. So please, I want more today because still hurt, but not as much. So I wanted more. That's all.
Perfect. Good job, Tina.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for all
You're
of you.
very, very welcome. So, Steve, if we could add that to the list, thank you. Good job. Yay. All right. And then moving on to the next one is Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
There, yay.
Hey,
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So this is from your book. I'll read the whole book while we're done. So it's on page 13. When you change the coordinates in your subconscious, you will find yourself automatically experiencing new perception, new perspective, making different decisions, feeling motivated, being creative and productive, and taking different action. No effort or willpower required. It will be natural and automatic. So that's so good.
Yes, fantastic. Good job.
So what I found was that I noticed that every time this is coming up, so I want your take on it. I hope it helps somebody else. But every time I go and do something, like accomplish something in my life, like different kinds of businesses, and then they're successful for a while, and then it fizzles out, and then I get disappointed, and then I start a new one. It's really amazing, and then it fizzles out. It's like that energy goes away again, and then I feel really disappointed. So that's coming up, which is really good because now I can work on it.
Absolutely. It's so exciting when stuff comes up because you get the chance to change it.
It's like, yay.
Well, that's wonderful, Lisa. And so the question is that feeling of you start something and it's successful and then it fizzles out and you're disappointed. That emotion there, whatever's going on there, what where in your childhood did you have that same feeling?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
So I recall that, like, a lot of times it would be between my dad, my brother, and me, which and I think it has a lot to do with my gender. He was a boy and I was a girl, kind of thing.
Right.
And then it was just this, I'm trying to go, oh. But I just need a little bit of help with that.
That's okay. So yes, so we're looking for that feeling of or an experience where you were looking forward to something and it looked like it was going to be great, and then you were disappointed. Mm-hmm. It didn't turn out the way you expected it. So I'm going to share one that I just discovered this morning of my own, because that can often trigger, oh yeah, that reminds me of something. Mm-hmm. So I think I've mentioned before that one of the pieces that's still left for me, and it's really not a big deal. So the wonderful thing is these are just minor things now, but there's a thing of people not doing what they said they would do. So they say they'll do something, I expect them to do it, and then they don't. I wait and they don't. So there were a few different references for that. So the big one, which I changed a few years ago, was about the money. Money's supposed to come and it doesn't. And that was, I discovered the reference was my dad. He left when I was very young, and we were told he was coming back. So, and he never did. So I spent my whole childhood and teenage years waiting for my dad to come back, and he didn't. That was the same experience with money. So I changed that, of course, completely. And then the one I came up with just, I don't know how long ago it was now, a few days ago or last week or something, that I shared in here in this group, was my mum was always running late. So we were going to do something, but then she would take so long to get ready, or she was late to pick us up, that we wouldn't. So there was that pattern. So I changed that completely. So now she's always early, and we all, she says we're going somewhere, and then we actually go, and all of that. So I changed all of that. Now, there was one, and things are changing. I can see the difference between, when people are getting back to me or things that I'm expecting kind of happen, but it's still quite noticeable that it just happened yesterday, in fact, that someone said they were going to do something, and then I noticed they didn't, and this morning they still hadn't, and I thought, Okay, so that's interesting. I wonder what's going on there. And what I came up with this morning, this is so brilliant, and I'm so excited about it, is that, and I'm excited because I can change it, is that my mum, bless her heart, she loved surprises. Now, she didn't like to be surprised. She didn't like to receive surprise, but she loved to give surprises. So every gift that I can remember receiving from my mum, it would be a surprise. And so she never just wrapped something. She always disguised it and put it in big boxes when there were little things and all of that kind of thing. And so she always came up with ways to give whatever we wanted or what was nice for us, but in a way that we were completely not expecting it. So what I realized is my subconscious has a reference for, you can't get what you want when you expect it. And my mum used to say, if you expect it, it's not a surprise. If you know, then it's not a surprise, which, she meant well, and it was lovely as children to get these surprises. But of course, the subconscious doesn't use logic or reason. So the subconscious became conditioned that anything good has to come in a way you don't expect it. Otherwise, it's not good. And so Steve, for example, I never saw Steve coming, anybody like that, in the way that we met and all of that. Where I live now, I was not expecting that. And so things that are good in my life that happen come in ways I completely don't, they take me by surprise. But it also means that when I'm expecting something, it doesn't come, because my mum said, well, if it's not a surprise, then, if you're expecting it, it's not a surprise. So the brilliant thing about that is it shows just another little piece, that it doesn't have to be bad memories. It's just that the way it's interpreted. Now, we address the bad memories first because we can't see the rest until we've changed those. But then when something like that comes up, so I immediately changed all of that to where my mum is saying, it's wonderful to look forward to things. And then she takes me to a shop. So when she gave us gifts, we weren't expecting them. But now I've got a new memory of my mum taking me to a shop, and I get to choose what I want. She says, now, what would you like? And then I choose it, and so on. So, and there's, we're going to, because she would say, we're going to a particular place, and we'd end up somewhere else, a nicer place, but still not what we were expecting. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope it helps to give some ideas of variations. Any of that help?
What I heard was, when I achieve my goals. So as you're speaking, it had something to do with, I achieved these goals that there's oh, I achieved them. And then the energy is oh, right. because that was wow, I did it. And then all of a sudden, oh, okay, is that it? And then, yes. So that's what I'm going through right now. I was oh, that's interesting. So I was okay. So I don't know if anybody's, or have you, felt like that, or oh, okay. And then you want to do it again because it's so good.
Yes, absolutely. And so that is quite a common thing. So a lot of people have that, and so there's a few different options. So there's possibly references, but in addition to that, there's the adrenaline and cortisol hit. Because when you achieve something, then you don't have that hit anymore, that excitement, right? And so if the brain has become addicted to those kind of chemicals, then and dopamine, you're constantly looking for the next, you have to go, it has to fail for you to be able to get that hit again from making something succeed.
Interesting. It's like getting high on your own supply and all of a sudden,
right. It is exactly that. It is exactly that. And brain chemicals can be addictive. And so anger is addictive, for example. The combination of stress chemicals that form the emotions that we recognize as anger, that can be addictive, which is why people try and change their anger, but then they start itching for something because that part of those receptors in the brain are like little baby birds going, I need this molecule, I need this molecule. And so you automatically look for a way to get it without consciously knowing that that's what you're doing. So does
Very
that
good. Yes.
sound good?
Very good.
Someone says in the chat, hi Lisa, maybe there are some references where you only got praised when you achieved something. Just an idea. So that's a very good point as well. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, so if you want to do where you are praised and appreciated and respected and revered just for you, because you are just amazing as you are.
That's very good. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
Very good.
Good. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Good job. And Katrina. Hi, Katrina. How are you today?
Hi, Odile. Yes. I'm good. Why not? Okay. So what I've got for today is two things that have been highlighted. Maybe I wasn't more aware of it now than in the past. And because you keep saying every day one of them, and this is, so what I've written is, why is it when I get praise, I go out of my way to prove you wrong? So I get praise for work. You say, oh, you're doing very well. And I say, no, I'm not. I feel as if I'm behind in my work. So once I sort of get the praise, something, sort of derail myself into, you know, you've given me praise. That was one part. And the other part in the memory garden, there was a message. Did you see it? From,
which one?
I don't know what you call her. She's actually here. IIJA. How do you pronounce that name? Can you see it?
Oh, yes, yes. I don't want to say her name in case she's being incognito.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So she said, she gave me a compliment, right? Or she's a lovely compliment.
She says we can say her name. It's Ilya.
Ilya, right. Well, Ilya gave me a compliment in comparing me with another lady. And what did I say? Need glasses, sorry.
That's all right.
I received a lovely compliment, which was praise. And I said to myself, you know, she was saying, can you see this? And I said to myself, no way. Then I typed in a bit and I said, I feel as if I've been given a cup of happy coffee. And then she replied, well, hopefully you can enjoy the coffee as much as possible. And then, then I'm saying to myself today, well, this feeling didn't last. This feeling didn't last, you know, the happy coffee. So yet again, I'm right and you're wrong.
Okay.
I seem to have to prove.
Yes, and
So
that is a very common program. And it, I believe, so a lot of people have it, and there's probably different combinations of causes for that, different references, different combinations of references. But one big part of it is staying in alignment. So if you think about it, if you were not praised, if you were criticized and judged as a child, now when someone compliments you and says, actually, you're wonderful, your subconscious is going, no, that's not right, because that's not, number one, that's not true. And number two, it's dangerous because this is my tribe. This is what I was taught. This is the conditioning. And remembering that the subconscious is trying to keep us safe. Its primary role is keeping us safe, keeping us alive. But it does that by keeping us in alignment with what we've always been and done and experienced, because we're still alive now. So change to the subconscious is a risk. It's a big risk because we don't know if we're going to survive or not. But we do know that if we do the same thing, we must survive because it's the same. Now, of course, the subconscious doesn't have the ability to work that out and reason it in that way, which is why it just goes according to programming. So with a computer, for example, if you have a computer, a virus protection program, right, on your computer, it's programmed to look for specific characteristics or specific things, and those things it will, block them or whatever it does, bring up a warning, but it doesn't have the ability to go, oh, you know what, no, this one's okay, it's just a different thing. It will go exactly according to the way it's programmed. And your subconscious is the same. So as far as the subconscious is concerned, you grew up being in this particular way where you weren't praised and appreciated and told how wonderful and gorgeous and fantastic you are. So now when you experience that, it's clashing with what your subconscious knows is supposed to be the reality. And of course, the fact is that that evidence, those references from the childhood experiences are not true. But again, the subconscious doesn't know that, which is why we can change memories, because the subconscious doesn't know the difference. Does that help? Does that explain a little bit?
Yeah, so I just have to go and look for times that I...
So I tell you what to do is whatever Ilya, start with that, the compliment that Ilya gave you, put that in your childhood or similar, just adjust it to fit with the little you, so that she's saying, so that your mum and your dad are saying that to you, whatever Ilya said, or the essence of what she said. Now your parents are saying that to the little you, and practice that. Now, as you do that, you'll probably find memories come up that contradict it, and then change those.
Okay. Right, but okay, thank you. The other bit I wrote was being compared to others makes me feel uncomfortable within myself. So it's the same thing as...
That's right. And when you added to that is probably a reference, if it's similar to a lot of other people, is probably a reference there of it's not safe to be the center of attention. It's not safe to shine your own light, because who do you think you are? And what about the other people? And you should always put other people first. There's a lot of options there. It's going to vary from person to person, but the bottom line is it's not safe to be thought of that way or treated that way. Does that make sense?
Well, I have the whole weekend.
Yes, you do. You can have a field day with it.
All right. Okay, thanks a million.
Of course, you're very welcome. All right, and thank you for sharing. And Swasti, hi Swasti, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So I was watching yesterday's recording.
Yes.
And I think I accidentally said something about everybody being old or something. I didn't mean that.
No, you didn't, sweetheart. You just said that you're not that old, and you're 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fair enough. And if one took it the opposite way, then I was only teasing when I said I am old.
No, sorry.
Compared to 18, I am.
Yeah. Guess it's just a nods or something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no sorry is necessary.
But I had a question about changing my grandparents' and parents' childhoods.
Yes.
So I changed my grandparents, so he's somebody in a TV show who I know, who I look up to. So is this character's face on my grandpa, but I know it's him? So is that okay, or is this basically saying there's characters in my childhood?
Okay, so that's a great question. There'll be other people with the same question. So what I want to ask you, first of all, is when you think of your actual grandfather's face, what's there?
This character's face.
Okay, but if you imagine what your grandfather's face actually looked like, any emotions, any expressions, anything there?
No, see, I did a due justice letter on this. I think I talked to you about this. And now he's just funny. He's a small, petite man, and he's funny.
Great, that's fantastic. Then that's okay. So for everybody else as well, you want to just check, because sometimes we replace the parent with somebody else who's nice, but that data on that parent or grandparent is still in the background. So if when you thought of your grandfather's real face, there was something there, like he was looking angry or you felt something negative, then I would say change that to where it's his actual face and he's looking happy or having fun, the same as the character.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Okay. Yeah. So
remember that. Sorry, sweetie.
No, you can speak. It's fine.
Just remember, just a reminder that all of these things are different pieces of data. So the look of your grandfather's face, and in some cases, specific features are different pieces of data. So you want to just make sure that it's all happy and good.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So I can use the characters because I also used somebody else for my grandma.
Very good. And again, same thing. So make sure that when you remember your grandma's actual face, that there's nothing negative there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. You're very welcome and well done. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And so changing memories, I feel like I don't know why, but I feel I'm so slow at being able to change one particular memory. So I can't change that many memories in one day. I seem to be, I don't know why I feel it. Why am I think it's comparing with everybody else, like we were just talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you are not alone. There, we've worked with a lot of people, which is one of the reasons that we changed our modality so much, because there are a lot of people who become overwhelmed by the number of memories that they have to change and then rehearse. And some people were doing like lists or spreadsheets and and feeling like, I don't know, I can't, there's not enough hours in the day to fit this in. So that's why we one of the reasons we changed to just imagine a whole new childhood. That's it. And pick so when you've got, so here's something that might help, is that when you change one memory, everything it's connected to, or a lot of what it's connected to in the subconscious, and we don't know what that is, we have no idea what that is, changes automatically. So you don't have to literally change every memory, not even every memory you can remember consciously. You just need to change the ones that come up that appear to be connected, and then you create new memories, and as a new one comes up, just change that. Now, as for how long to spend on it, it doesn't need to be an in real time story. It doesn't need to be acting in real time. You can do it, in fact, if you've ever watched a movie on fast speed, you can do it like that. So that's an option. Or just pick particular moments. So for me, I have just key moments. So when I spoke earlier about changing all the surprise thing, I've just remembered the main one, because Steve asked me what's early, when you're early ones. And my mum was a performer. She was an actress and performer, and one of her acts was so I had a memory of being very small. Someone's holding me, I don't know who they are, and my mum walks in drag. So my mum walked in dressed as a man, as a tramp clown, because that was part of her job. And I screamed and screamed. I was terrified. And my mum was surprised. And she goes, it's okay, it's me. And she must have probably taken off the wig and the hat and said, it's okay, it's all right, sweetheart, it's me. And she was not expecting that reaction. She thought it would be funny. She thought I would find it funny, but I just, didn't recognize her. And so there is an early memory of surprise. Now, when I changed, the way I changed that, so I'm giving you this as an example. So I didn't change like she wasn't dressed. I did a stepping stone. And in fact, it kind of happened spontaneously, of where she walks in, she's dressed as a man, but I recognize her immediately, and I go like this to her. My arms go out to her, and she takes me. And then and I literally just imagined that 1, 2, 3, and then I changed it to where she walks in, but she's dressed as a woman. She looks really nice and everything. And again, I go to her, and that's it. And now during today, every time I think of it, I'll just remember that, just briefly remember it, and it takes seconds. Yeah. So hopefully that gives an idea of how much time is involved. It doesn't need to be a lot. Does that help a bit?
Yeah, but I think It's almost as if my brain wants to take time
Yes.
to make sure it's perfect. Is this a reference too?
So that's a reference.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you check that feeling of it has to be perfect, and then where in childhood did it have to be perfect?
Okay, that might help.
Yeah, and change that first so that you've changed that reference, and then you can do the other memories without that kind of compulsion to have to make it perfect.
Another quick thing is also check your definition of, work, because, whether we're doing it intentionally or not, or I might even be using that language. I'm not necessarily wanting to, as we're talking about doing the work of changing childhood memories. Everybody's going to have their own definition of what work means. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be work. Well, you might have all kinds of references for, well, work has to be hard and you really have to dig in and it's going to take a long time and I'm going to sweat and I'm going to get dirty and I'll never get finished with it. It depends on what's back there. Work, on the other hand, could be, oh, okay, well, I like work. Work is fun. Everybody's going to have a different understanding of what work is, but take a look at what's back there. So it's like, oh, so I've worked with a lot of clients who feel overwhelmed with the concept of work. Therefore, they're bringing that to what we're doing here. And, and that's one more thing that's adding to the overwhelmed feeling of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny when you actually say work, I imagine coming home from school and having to do like chemistry or something, which I find really hard. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely needs changing.
So that's it. And so perhaps think of this as daydreaming. Because that's really all it is. It's just daydreaming. It's just like you think about something and when you're waiting for something, and nowadays, of course, we're so busy, we've got our phones and that, so there's not a lot of sitting around daydreaming anymore, probably. But you can use that as
and not to be a negative cloud here, but people can also have references for daydreaming. It's like there can be negative things. There can be people in your life that are saying, stop your daydreaming. Daydreaming is bad.
I was one of them. Yeah, I was always told to stop daydreaming. Yes.
So we're giving you permission to daydream, and it's perfectly good, and it's going to turn it. That's what's going to transform your life. So please do it.
Right, and whatever works for you, however it, the way you see it works for you. Another option is visualization. So a lot of people are very comfortable with visualizing the future. You're just visualizing the past in the same way. So hopefully that gives you plenty of options there.
Yeah, and is it also enough to just practice a memory over 24 hours many times rather than over a week or something?
Absolutely. And you just practice it until it feels natural, until it's automatic. And so and that could be, I practice it 4 times and it's there. So it's going to vary from person to person and also from memory to memory. So some memories may be easier to establish than others, and that's going to depend on literally on the physical neural connections in your brain, the synapses, and how established they are and how much is needed to change those networks.
Yeah, I feel like when I wrote the Do Justice letter, my grandpa changed by himself.
Yes.
So that's the first image that comes to mind. And also ones where I didn't know the people, but I changed memories of them.
Good.
That's so easy to do, but where I spent a lot of time with my parents or something, and I have to practice different opposite memories of them, those take longer.
Right. And sometimes if it's taking a long time, you may want to check if there's something else that you can change that's going to make it easier, like their childhood or a moment in their childhood that can represent. So my grandmother, a lot of drama there, bless her heart, working from 4 years old, a lot of struggle, a lot of suffering. And so I picked the one imaginary memory I just made up was her in this pretty little blue dress. And she's about 3 or 4 years old. And there she is in this beautiful frilly blue dress. And I can feel the feeling of she's treasured, she's loved. And that's it. So I didn't go through into a lot of detail. Now, sometimes you'll need to go into more detail. So but that gives an example of the options.
So also just quickly, last thing. So when I change some memories, usually some memories will come up and I will change them to change the one I'm working on right now. But sometimes there's something there, but I don't know what it is, and it doesn't come up. The memory is changing, but there's something there.
Okay, so give me an example. How do you know there's something there?
I think it's a feeling inside my body.
Feeling. Okay.
Yeah, I would call it a gut feeling.
Okay, good. And so what to do, and then if there's nothing coming up that you can relate it to, go into the superpower state and send love to it. And with the intention of sending love to whatever it's representing or wherever it's coming from. So what I do is I say something like, whatever that is, wherever it comes from, I love it all anyway.
I think it's doubt as well.
Doubt, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, send that. So if you don't have the reference, just love what's there with the intention of sending that love to whatever it could be that may be causing it. And then the feeling may just go, or you may suddenly remember something or think of something. And remember that if something comes up, even if it seems that it has nothing to do with what you're focused on at the moment, if it's coming up, it's linked in some way, and so address it anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, Swasti, and thank you so much for sharing as always.
Odile, I just want to add one little thing as a contrast, because I know that you're somebody who comes up with a quick little visual, and you can change a memory like that, and it kind of represents everything, and that works really well for you. I know that I'm somebody that likes to create detail. My mind likes the detail of it. I've always kind of been somebody that has been drawn to history, and I like finding out about things and developing a good storyline. So I'm just saying that the way that I develop memories.
Yes.
So I'm just that there's going to be multiple ways of doing it. So for me, I enjoy creating the story. I like the detail. I've put historical characters into my family's plot line, and I just like the good story. So it's that feeling of walking out of the movie theater, and it's like, wow, that was a great movie, and you're in love with the storyline.
Yes.
And you may not have to replay the entire movie in your head in order to get that feeling. There may be just a couple of scenes after you've seen the movie, but you know the movie well enough, and you're wanting to create that good feeling. So if you're able to do that with one little scene like Odile does, that's great. If you invest the time to build the really good storyline, you're doing essentially the same thing.
Yes.
But I'm just putting that out there as a couple of different ways of doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Yes, and that is a very, very good point. And I know an example, the example that came to mind of yours a long time ago, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something, was where Neville Goddard was friends with your dad. So Steve created memories of Neville Goddard being friends with his dad and coming round to the house and that kind of thing. So that was lovely. That gives another lovely example. Thank you. And Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. It's lovely to see you back. How are you today?
Good. I'm sorry I was late.
That's all right.
Just lost track of time. As I'm thinking about things I want to talk about, I really do have such ADD. It's kind of getting in the way of my work, because I'll be focused on one thing, and I'll be recreating the memories to that. And then poof, it goes out of my mind. And my naturopath is actually, she just did a test on me, and we're trying to figure out if I'm missing amino acids and so on and so forth. So it's frustrating. So and also I'm not, because of my attention issue, I get frustrated when I have so many different memories that I have to work on at the same, like I feel like there's so many different things that are needing to be changed right now that I get like, oh my gosh, how am I going to cover everything? So what I've been trying to do is write down, you know, I've been working on recreating my mother's childhood, recreating my dad's childhood, and I've been doing some really good stuff with my own upbringing. But then I feel like I'm making progress, but then it just feels overwhelming too. Like I'm never going to get there because I'm not able to focus. You know, like when I listen to Swasti talk, I think, wow, she's clear. She knows, she's got it almost, I can almost see like a chart in front of her. Like, okay, she's systematically, but I don't have that ability to stay focused.
Yes. Okay, so thank you, Cheryl, for sharing this, because this is very important. And again, you're not alone. So first of all, ADD and similar issues with attention and cognitive thinking is a coping skill, and it is the result of being full of stress chemicals as a child. Okay, so if you can imagine, so here we're designed to be very aware of any danger. So if you're walking through a forest or the nature somewhere, naturally, you know, let's say long time ago, evolutionarily, as you're walking along, if something moves here, you have to look to survive. And then if something else moves over there, you're going to be, so your senses are designed to be heightened. The more you have to protect yourself, the more stress chemicals are in your system, the more hyper aware you are. And so your brain is going to all kinds of different things. That's survival. So it's not a condition as such. I mean, it is a condition, but it's due to survival. It's a survival skill. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is absolutely changeable. And the way to change it, of course, is in bringing those stress chemicals down, creating, you know, more feel-good chemicals, which calm that down. Now, the amino acids and things, you're right, that is part of it as well. And you can do that through diet, but you've just joined the happy coffee thing, haven't you? So
Yes. Yep.
Have you tried it yet?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, so when you try that, one of the benefits of it is focus. And in fact, someone called me this morning. Oh, he won't mind me saying who he is. My dad. I sent something to dad, and he called me, and he was saying that he's been having trouble. So he's 86, I think, and he's been having trouble focusing during meditation. He does meditation every morning, but he said he said his mind was like wild horses all over the place, and he couldn't.
Yeah.
And he had the happy coffee this morning, and he was able to focus through his meditation. So that's what he's experienced so far. So because it's got the amino acids you're talking about are in there. That's part of
that was one of the reasons I decided to try it. And you know, I've talked with my naturopath. I've given her the link to that I had asked you about, and there is an aspect of that that's overwhelming to me too. That whole being part of the coffee, you know, because I'm not sure I know how to do it. You know, blah, blah. That's a whole other discussion. But I am looking forward to trying it and seeing if it helps.
And so now, in addition to that, what you want to do is, of course, change those childhood memories. So what were you like in school?
I was funny, you know, always talking and being a clown and kidding around.
And were you distracted easily in school?
If it was interesting, I loved school. Like, I loved to learn. But if it was something I didn't like, forget it.
Okay. So the first step to all of this is when it happens. So when you're working on this, and then your mind goes, like you say, it gets distracted. As soon as you notice that you've been distracted, recognize that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's your survival mechanism, and at the moment that's what it's doing. So immediately takes that pressure off. You don't have to change it, you don't have to fix it, you know what I mean? So just take a deep breath when that happens, deep breath, and send love to it, whatever that is, whatever that part of you is. Love it, because that'll do in the moment is it'll bring those stress chemicals down, create the feel-good chemicals, which will help to not make it a vicious circle of getting more and more overwhelmed. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, and I know. Yeah, so go ahead.
No, it's okay, you say.
No, you go ahead.
And so with the memories themselves, just on a practical level, you know, like I was saying to Swasti, you don't need to do all of them, and it doesn't need to take a long time. As you do one, it automatically starts to change others. So just do the one that comes up. So something comes up, imagine it differently. If there are negative emotions that you can't imagine it differently, do the back and forth with the superpower, then imagine it differently, and be very gentle with yourself. There's no pressure, there's no deadline, there's no pace to keep up. The more relaxed you are, the easier it'll be, and the more you'll be able to focus.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that feeling of being, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Almost like I give myself so many things to do. And I know growing up, it was complete and total chaos. I mean, you didn't know what was going to happen from 1 minute to the next. So it is, and it's a good thing. I mean, I can hit, if something comes up spontaneously, I am fast, I am good. I mean, I can put stuff together in the last second better than anybody I know. So it has helped me in a lot of ways. I guess, I have to be nicer to myself about it.
Because it would be good.
I think I also want to be good at everything. I want to be perfect at everything too. So,
and it would be good to have that balance where you're able to react immediately. You've already got that skill, but that it doesn't have to be like that. It's just, you know, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes, so you do it when it's needed, but for the rest of the time, you relax. So you're able to relax. So it's not just you're on that, you know, at that speed all the time. And of course, the answer to that is doing that in your childhood, because now you don't have, so your parents are not putting you in that situation anymore. Now you're putting you in that situation. Now, not consciously, of course, but your subconscious to, again, keep you in alignment with that status quo from your childhood. So that's why, so the childhood changed that, where your parents are relaxed. There's no rush. And what I would do is I would imagine, however you want to imagine it, imagine you've got stuff to do, like maybe it's housework, maybe whatever chores you had to, so whatever it was that you were pressured to do as a child, have yourself there, and you've got these chores or you've got this work or whatever, and your mum, and you're going, oh, I should do this, and your mum and your dad are saying, sweetheart, no, leave it. It can be done, like, come sit down, somebody else will do it. Right? So really, really strong, where they said, no, don't worry, I'll do it. You sit and watch TV or play your game or whatever it is you want to do. So everybody here should have at least 1 or 2 childhood memories, preferably more, where you are sitting around doing just what you feel like doing. So you're playing a game, you're watching TV, you're reading a book, whatever it is you're doing, and someone else is doing the work. Someone, your mum, your dad, staff, I mean, you know, give yourself some servants, that's okay too. Somebody else, a housekeeper, whatever, is doing the work that you had to do as a child, the chores, the lot.
Yeah, that's very good. I like that one. I have had it, I've had it really, this hasn't happened in a long time to me, where I've gotten to this point, because I usually can keep it really under control. I plan things ahead of time and I never do stuff at the last minute. But I think with all this that I'm trying to do, I think it might be like, you know, things get worse before they get better. So it might be just a little
stirring it up.
Blurb. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. My sister came up with a great analogy a long time ago, where when you're working on yourself and you're changing stuff, you know, when you've got a greasy pan And so it's greasy pan, dirty pan, and then you start with the soap and the water and you start scrubbing, and everything gets, and the water gets filthy before you rinse it out, and then it's clean. So that's
like
a
that.
sort of thing, right?
Okay.
All right, good job, Cheryl. You're very welcome, and thank you for sharing, sweetheart. All right.
Yeah,
And
Odile, I'm gonna just help you pare this down a little bit. A good question here. We'll start with that. There's a couple of questions about the coffee, but let's start with this one question. So if there are still emotions, but you can imagine it differently to the opposite and positive, even with the help of stepping stones, you don't have to go back and forth and bring any emotions down.
so if there are still emotions,
I would say that if there are still emotions there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If when you play the new memory, you don't have the opposite positive and empowering emotions, feelings to go with the new visual, then you do need to keep doing that with the superpower, because your end result needs to be positive, those feel-good chemicals. So, and because stress chemicals that create the negative emotions are so much stronger for survival than feel-good chemicals, you need more of the feel-good chemicals. So that's why, like I was saying the other day, these positive memories need to be very, very good. In other words, not just that it was okay or it was quite nice, but that it was the best. It was so exciting. It was so wonderful. It was so full of love. It was, they were praising, I won awards. So the more wonderful you make it, the stronger you'll be able to produce those chemicals. Now, if you cannot feel the feel-good emotions in the new memory, then yes, check and bring down any negative emotions until you can not only play the new memory visually or know it, but that you have the emotions that go with it, the wonderful emotions that go with it. So I hope that helps, Ilya, but if not, let me know.
And a couple of questions regarding the coffee. Is this happy coffee actually a beverage? I thought it was a euphemism. So that would be, yeah, it could be.
I can understand that.
That's one. And then there's a question regarding, is it addictive? What's in it, I guess,
right.
Kind of question.
Okay, so two things. So first of all, yes, it is a beverage, and it's there's happy coffee, happy hot chocolate, happy lemonade, and happy chai tea, or chai, as somebody pointed out to me that tea means chai means tea in Hindu, so chai. Anyway, so it is a real beverage. And if you want more information on how to get it and all of that kind of thing, just email me and I'll send you the information, or message me on Facebook. As for the addiction thing, it's specifically non-addictive. So the ingredients that are in it are natural amino acids and nootropics they are natural and plant-based and organic. So what they do is they're not literally the happy chemical. You're taking the happy chemicals, because apart from anything else, that's very difficult to get from, if not impossible with certain of them, to get across the blood-brain barrier, as they say. So I won't go into all that. But basically, they trigger your brain to produce your own happy chemicals. So these ingredients have been proven to to prompt your brain to produce your own endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. So, and it's not addictive at all. Now, having said that, it's very important to bear in mind that this is a tool. It's not something that you should be relying on. So it's, although of course we do rely, like we have to drink water, we have to eat food and so on, but you want to be empowered inside yourself, and you can produce those chemicals on your own. But what this does is it can give you a leg up. It can give you a little boost. So the idea is to not have to take this for the rest of your life. Use it as a leg up, as a boost, as a tool to help you to develop your own ability, your own skill to continue. So it's like training wheels on a bicycle, right? So the happy coffee and the happy beverages, that's your training wheels. It just makes it easier to learn to ride the bicycle. And then once you're going, you can take them off. So I hope that helps to explain, but if you have more questions, and I'll put a link in the, actually I'll put a link in the description of this video. We'll put a link to the page on our website that explains happy coffee. All right, so it was that all. I know I saw a comment I wanted to read out from Lisa. Yes, here we go. So Lisa says, Glinda the Good Witch appeared to me and said you had the love power all the time as a child memory. So that is a beautiful idea of how to include fictional characters and things in your childhood memories, because your subconscious won't know the difference. So that is a fantastic one. Glinda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz, saying to you as a child, you had the love power all the time. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. That's beautiful. All right. And Lisa says, excellent session today. The happy coffee is good. Good. I'm so glad that you like it too. Very, and fair trade also. Yes, that's right. Good. And organic and kosher and yeah, that kind of thing. So that's good. We're very, very excited about it because it kind of helps to make this work faster and easier and more effective. All right, so let's do the targeting. And Steve, if you could send me the targets, please. So take a deep breath and either close your eyes or leave them open, whichever you prefer, and go into your superpower state. However you do that, repeating your word or phrase, using your anchor, or imagining hugging your subject. Start to feel your heart opening, that expansion feeling in your chest, filled with love, filled with light. Feel that energy expanding. And now allow that light or energy to spread down to your toes, up to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy, that love. Very good. And now fill each of the cells of your body with that same light, that same energy, that love, loving each cell just for existing. Very good. Now fill your subject with that light, that energy, loving them just for existing. All the things you love about them, fill it all with that light, that energy. And now imagine that they don't want to be with you or something else negative, and keep them filled with that light, that energy. Maintain it. Maintain that love. Very good. All right. And now let's go over to Lisa. Fill Lisa with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. So she's now full of that light, that energy, that love. Loving Lisa just for existing. And now allowing that light, that energy to overflow from Lisa and fill everything and everyone in her life with that same light, that energy, loving it all just for existing and shining that light into any darkness. Very, very good. And now over to Tina. Fill Tina with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love Tina just for existing. Now allow that light, that energy to fill Tina's right arm, from the tips of her fingers to the top of her shoulder. Fill her whole arm with that light, that energy, that love, all the cells, exactly as it is. Whether it stops hurting or not, love it all anyway, shining that light into any darkness, loving it just for existing. Very, very good. And now over to Cheryl. Fill Cheryl with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love Cheryl just for existing. And allow that light, that energy to fill whatever part of Cheryl gets distracted and overwhelmed. Whatever that is, love it all anyway, exactly as it is, shining that light into any darkness, loving it all anyway. Very good. And now over to Swasti. Fill Swasti with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love Swasti just for existing. And allow that light, that energy to overflow from Swasti and fill everything and everyone in her life. And all the memories exactly as they are. And now allow that light, that energy to fill the part of Swasti that sometimes feels overwhelmed. Fill that part of her with that light, that energy. Love that part of Swasti exactly as it is without needing it to change. Whether she gets overwhelmed or not, love it all anyway. Good job. And now to Katrina. Fill Katrina with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love Katrina just for existing. Now allow that light or energy to overflow from Katrina and fill the part of her that's uncomfortable with receiving compliments and praise. Love that part of Katrina. Shine that light into any darkness and love it anyway. And now allow that light to shine into Katrina's childhood, filling everyone and everything in her childhood, whether she received praise or not. Whatever's there, love it all anyway, shining that light into any darkness. Very, very good. And now fill each of those who are on this call but don't have their camera on, fill each person with that light, that energy, that love. From the tips of their toes to the top of their head and out to their fingertips, love each one just for existing. And allow that light, that energy to overflow from each of them and fill their whole lives, everything and everyone in their lives, with that same light, that energy, that love, shining that light into any darkness, feeling that power. And now allow that light, that energy to overflow from this group Fill anyone who's watching the recording, and then allow it to spread out and fill the rest of the planet with this light, this energy, this love, filling everyone, everything, every circumstance, every event on the planet with this pure, unconditional love, loving it exactly as it is, shining that light into any darkness. Good job. And now think of yourself later today and fill that version of you with that light, that energy. Whatever you'll be doing, whatever you'll be experiencing, whatever you'll be feeling, fill that version of you with that light, that energy, loving that version of you exactly as you are. And now open your heart even more and receive the love from everyone else, including me. Feel yourself being filled up with that light, that energy, being loved just for existing exactly as you are, no matter what. Very, very good. All right, you can open your eyes if you have them closed. And we will see you again, of course, on Monday. I will make sure that I put the link up for the new week for registering, and it'll be on the resources page. And any questions or anything before we finish, of course, this weekend, make sure you practice, keep practicing, keep doing, and watch the recordings again if you need to. So any questions or requests before we finish? Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you a lot. Thank you, you too, sweetheart. Katrina, did you say something? Oh, I thought you probably just moved. My eye was drawn. All right, everyone. Lots of love to all of you, and well done. I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you. All right, and we'll see you again on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to yourselves first before you think about being kind to anybody else. All right, bye-bye now. Lots of love.